Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to today's YouTube and Facebook Live. So hopefully we are live on Facebook. We're also live on YouTube. I do have a slight issue though, because I I don't know what I've done to kind of upset the Facebook gods, but I seem to have been blocked from being able to post anything in groups. So if you're watching this on the YouTube, or sorry, the Elite Media Buyers Facebook group, then I can't obviously post anything in there. I can't leave any comments in there. What I have done is I've posted something on the event, and I'll kind of check as we kind of go along to kind of do this. And if worst comes to the worst, if we don't actually get to the point where we're live and we have to kind of do some kind of jiggery pokery, this will be recorded and I'll be able to kind of upload it to both Facebook and to YouTube after the event. So I'm really, really excited. Just so you know who I am, I'm Jim Banks. I'm the founder of Elite Media Buyers, the website. I'm also the main admin of the Facebook group. We're about 1,500 people strong. Primarily, the purpose of the group is just to help people understand and navigate their way through the media buying landscape. And I'm really, really excited today to have Julian Frachtman, who is the CEO of Airtory. I actually got introduced to Airtory by one other group member, a guy called Harrison, who works for Mute 6. And Harrison put me onto Airtory because I was doing some media buying in the programmatic space, and I found that just plain static banners just wasn't cutting it for me. So I've been exploring kind of working with Airtory. I looked at another company, and they just kind of weren't up to scratch. And Julie and I have been sort of talking about possibly doing something to help educate some of the people in the group a little bit about programmatic display and why it's different than any other forms of media buying. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Julian on. While he's on, I'm actually going to see if I can. Just give me 1 second, Julian, while we do this.
Sure.
No, that's not it. We want that. Right. Anyway, you carry on talking, and I'll work out some of the logistics.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. Appreciate your time. As Jim mentioned, I am the CEO and one of the co-founders of Airtory, and we are a rich media ad creation and serving platform. And so essentially what that means is you can use our system to create high impact and interactive rich media display and video units that can be run across any open programmatic channel. So what that means is you can run it on DV360, on Google Display Network, on Trade Desk, AppNexus. Our platform and any other third-party ad server, you cannot run our ad units across Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat. So as Jim mentioned in his kind of introduction of the event, this is a great opportunity for people who have found that either a social platform or platform advertising hasn't been working for them, or they've kind of hit a cap eCPA and they want to find other opportunities to provide engaging and high-performing ad units. For some of you that have been in the space for a little bit, you may be aware of other players in our space. And so a few of those, one would be Celtra, CELTRA, if you want to check them out. Another is Clipcentric. And to give you an idea of where we exist within the space in comparison, we classify them more as Adobe Photoshop for ad creation. So it's a relatively expensive platform with minimum spend requirements. It's complex, but you are able to build anything and everything that you want within it. Airtory, as a counterpoint, is to us the Squarespace for rich media ad creation. And so what that means is we've built 300 plus different templates across desktop, mobile, native, and interactive video, where all you need to do is identify the template that you want to create. You still need to create image assets, so it doesn't remove that requirement. But once you have the assets, it takes you literally minutes to put together a rich media ad unit that you can traffic immediately once you're done. We do have one other offering, our landing page creation suite, which I'll be going over as well. And so that is kind of the introduction. Jim, I don't know if there is anything else you wanted me to talk through, or if you want me to just dive in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've just checked. We're live on YouTube, so that's good. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Facebook, but we'll kind of worry about that kind of in due course. But we are definitely live on Facebook, and I'm going to on YouTube, and I'm going to try and grab the link from there to kind of post it into Facebook at the very worst. So yeah, I mean, like obviously, thanks for the introduction, Julian. Really appreciate that. As I mentioned, I mean, I've been kind of buying programmatic for a little while, right? It's definitely for me one of the fastest growing sectors of my agency, and for me, it was one of those things. It's probably the steepest learning curve I've had. So I think I know a lot of people that I've spoken to who are in the group are keen to kind of know more about programmatic, right? But I think they're probably a little bit scared, right? So I think for me, maybe between us, what we can do is just try and kind of quell people's kind of concerns that it's it's more difficult, and maybe what we can do is kind of talk through a little bit about how Airtory can kind of do that. So I mean, do you want to kind of just kind of walk people through kind of the back end and see where we go from there?
Yeah, absolutely. And it might be interesting. I was jumping the gun there a little bit, but it might be helpful to talk through kind of why this is additionally valuable for people who are kind of operating within smaller agencies or kind of operating as their own like single person agency. And so what we found with Airtory customers is that this really evens the playing field when you're going out there and trying to work with mid-level or larger brands. And so customers who are using the same templates that we have in place, or customers who come to us and say, hey, I've got this client, they want to run something super cool and unique. So we actually will partner with customers to build a template that they can use and reuse kind of as their own experience. And so customers of Airtory on the agency side are running, national campaigns across the U.S. and other places for 7-Eleven, for major insurance companies, for major, Fortune 500 brands. And they have access to the same tools that you would have access to as well. And so at the very least on the creative side, we view Airtory as a platform that allows for kind of the democratization of high impact and interactive creative, and also helps to level the playing field. And so we're half of the equation. The other half is, of course, the DSP, or which programmatic platform you plan on running through. So, I know Jim uses Centro, and so that's one that I think he has a close relationship with and does well for him. There are a lot of options out there around self-serve buying. So I mentioned Google Play Network and DV360, and the list goes on. For like Jim, I don't know if you have any other thoughts generally on what I said, or other DSPs that you've had good experiences with in the past.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the reasons why I like Centro, I mean, they support my agency really well. I mean, again, they provide lots of good training so if you have people kind of at a junior kind of level that you want to kind of bring in to help kind of run your media buying on that platform, right? They are really good at providing copious amounts of training to kind of like to traffic all the different types of campaigns that you can run, because obviously there's a huge amount of inventory available. Again, it's insane the amount of inventory that is available on sort of the DSPs, right? But again, I think part of it is the kind of the campaigns and the strategies and the tactics that you need to kind of put in place, and obviously the people that work on the ad ops side of things, certainly on Centro's side, right? They've got experience of doing this kind of all day, every day, and supporting agencies to kind of get the best out of the platform is kind of what they do. So they obviously understand a little bit more about, when they introduce new things. And again, they've introduced some very cool things recently to enable people that manage, Facebook, Google, places like that, to actually collate all of the information about what sort of things they've done, right? Because again, one of the biggest challenges is like, reporting at the end of the month what you've actually changed, what sort of things you've done, right? And I think that's one of the beauties of something like, Centro, is that they allow you to kind of like amalgamate all of the information together in one place, and then provide you with the ability to say, these are all the changes I made to all of the different campaigns kind of across the board. So it's not just the stuff that actually they do on Centro, it's also the stuff that you do on Facebook, on Google, Snapchat, Twitter. I mean, wherever you kind of buy media, they can provide you with the kind of tools to report it, and also to to actually dictate what you've actually made changes on.
Right. No, I think that's a great point. And what's interesting about that is I think it gives you the opportunity to review performance across those different channels. And so that's where it might begin to be interesting if you're looking at eCPC or eCPA or whatever metric is your KPI for success. Then that allows you to understand, hey, prices are rising, more people coming back to Facebook. Maybe it is time to look for an alternative, and maybe that's programmatic, maybe that's TikTok. Who knows? Like, I hear the kids like it.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the things that I think with with programmatic. I mean, I speak to a lot of people and they go, yeah, I'm a media buyer. I buy traffic on Facebook, and I always go, well, technically that really isn't a media buyer, because Facebook are the people who are deciding which placements to run on. I mean, yes, you can kind of like decide, if you want to run audience network traffic or not. You can then kind of dive in and sort of look at specific pages. But really, I mean, most people I know, they don't do anything other than they'll choose which placements at a very high level. It'll be audience network, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, that's it, right? Or they'll just say, I'm only running on Facebook and I'm only running on Instagram, and that's it. Right. And I think for me, there's a huge amount of opportunity. Again, one of the things for me that we have the biggest success with is in remarketing. Right. And the reason that we have that is because people go into an ecosystem like Facebook, like Google. Right. They kind of get to your site, they have a mooch around, maybe buy things, maybe don't. Right. And if they don't, they leave and they go somewhere else. And again, what we're finding is a lot more people are, sort of leaving your site and going off to play a game, or they're going off to look at, a dating app or something like that. And if you can actually have an ad that will appear in the apps that they're using after you've actually had the opportunity to kind of talk to them, right, you're able to continue conversations, right, that you started on Facebook, right, and you're then able to kind of close those deals down and actually get a sale. Where it becomes slightly more complex is, obviously things like attribution, because the Facebook pixel will be still there, and Facebook ultimately will still be taking some of the credit for that sale that's taken place, right? So for me, it's always a kind of a challenge of trying to understand the role that all of the components of your ecosystem have kind of played in getting people over the line, right? That's always for me the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And also the other thing is also the kind of the creative side of things, right? Because again, it's a lot more challenging, right, when you are going to try, maybe, again, remarketing clearly more sort of bottom of the funnel. But I think where, the DSPs really come into there and they have a huge amount of traffic, the CPMs are significantly cheaper than the CPMs that you would pay buying cold traffic on Facebook or Google, right? So you have an opportunity to kind of create a warmer audience that you can bring from your DSP over to, over to your platform. We seem to have lost Julian there. So yeah, if you're listening to us on YouTube, then please leave your comments here on YouTube if you can. Right? I think for some reason we seem to have completely lost Facebook completely. I think Julian's back. There we are. 2 seconds. Yeah, sorry about that. We seem to have lost you there, Julian.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yeah. So in terms of what you were saying, I think definitely there's a lot to be said about using programmatic retargeting deeper in the funnel once you're using Facebook to get them over there. And when people are buying on Facebook or other closed platforms that do have a lot of targeting data, a lot of what's being baked into your CPMs is based off of that audience targeting. And so that brings up one fact that once you pay for the audience once, why should you be paying higher Facebook or other platform CPMs if you already know who you want to retarget? And I think it also bears the conversation around data. And so we're not going to solve that, but I think that's why many people are wary of going into the programmatic space. We do, a little bit more homework and due diligence in terms of the data you're bringing to the table for targeting. But if you're doing campaigns that are at scale and you have access to your client's data, or you have DMP relationships where you can pull that in, and so that's a data management platform, then you do have to do a little more work to put the pieces together, but the outcome often is a much more efficient and transparent process and ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if we've got, definitely don't seem to be live on Facebook for some reason, Julian. I don't quite know why, but let me see if I can grab the link. So carry on talking.
Okay. Well, so I think that was a lot of the good meat on the bone that I would cover. So at this point, I can share my screen and go over and start going through the platform.
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
All right.
And I've just posted on. I've just posted into the event to say we're live on YouTube. But again, I'm kind of. I don't understand why I've lost the ability to kind of do anything with Facebook, but there we go. That's kind of by the by. Right. Okay.
Can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. So I'm currently logged into the Airtory studio, and so this is what you see when you get in. And so from here, you're able to make display or video ads. And so within display, we have a few different verticals. So we have mobile interactive, which is movement or a unit that you can physically engage. Animated has movement within the ad. Desktop has HTML5, so rich media interactive ads, as well as native ads. And our native ad section has our mobile native ads. And so just for clarification, when I say native, I'm not talking about Taboola or Outbrain or things like that. These are high-impact, non-IAB standard units that cannot be bought programmatically unless you have a relationship with a publisher where they set up a PMP or a private marketplace deal ID for you within your DSP. And so that might be something, if people are interested, that Jim, I'm sure you can help talk them through that or explain that more fully. Or the other way that you can use native ad units is if you have a direct relationship with a publisher, then they're able to run these through Google Ad Manager. So for now, I'll take you through what the creation process looks like in a few of our different templates. But if there are any questions throughout, feel free to type them in the chat, and Jim will pass them along as they come in. So for now, we'll make a mobile interactive ad. So we'll click there and add it to a campaign. From there, you can choose what size you'd create. So for now, we'll just go into interstitial because we have a good amount of templates available there. Once here, you're able to click through the different template options we have and identify one that fit for the campaign you're running. So we have scratch drill, peel to reveal. We have a trivia polling option. We have branded video wall. We've actually built our own map tile server, so you can have units that incorporate a map where you upload the different locations of stores with a logo, and the users are able to click and get directions to it. We have, vote swipe interactions. We have a carousel unit. One of our newer ones is an in-banner video survey, where you can have multiple questions in a row with different answer styles. For now, to make it simple, just make a scratch-off ad unit. So I'll click there and then click customize. It's meant to be a very self-service platform, so we have build guides available for your template. And so what these do is they show you exactly what you need in order to build the ad. So since this is a scratch off, it means you need an overlay image and an underlay image. And you can click and see.
Sorry to interrupt, Julian. Just again, one of the things I love about your platform is those guides, right? Because again, one of the biggest challenges, right? I know a lot of people who work with multiple agencies. They've got people that do the sort of design of the kind of the ad units, right? And one of the biggest challenges is what size do they need to be, and what else do I need, right? Whereas obviously what you've got is you've got the overlay images, the underlay images, all of the kind of the components that make up the ad. That kind of, you have the guys that explain kind of like in really, really good detail how to actually create those ad units, right? And the other thing I was going to suggest is, most of the ads that you have, the reason that they do well is because they are interactive in nature, right? Again, things like scratch to win and all that sort of stuff. again, that kind of plays to people being on their phone, maybe bored or something like that, and it just gives you the ability to kind of bring people into the create an experience for them, using the ads that you have, right? Which I think ordinary static banners just don't give you.
Yep. Yeah, that's absolutely the case, and where our customers find a lot of value. And on the build guide, actually, you can download it as a PDF, so you can even send this to your designer or whoever, and they'll be able to get the creative assets. So for now, what we'll go ahead and do is we'll build our ad. So we'll put in the creative name. We'll go ahead and update the overlay image. And you can see on the right that it updates in real time as you update the assets and the underlay image. You can actually interact with the ad as well, so you can see what you're creating. At this point, we'll turn on the interaction queue, which you'll see in a moment. You can update URL for click-through, UTM parameters, third-party trackers if you need that from your client. We'll put in our fallback image. So there's the interaction.
And the reason people need a fallback is that some people may have like things switched off that won't make the interaction work on their phone, and obviously the fallback is then just it just sits there as a kind of the default.
Yeah, it's just a standard static display. And so, yeah, that can happen based off of settings on the phone, sometimes based off of the latency or how much the phone's able to kind of power in terms of download speed. The DSP could make a decision based off of that as well. So it just gives it an elegant fallback solution. So what we've done is we have literally just built our ad. And so what you come away with is a standard tag right here. Then what you would do is you would select from the different platforms that you would like to go through. And when you say the trade desk, we automatically update all the macros. And so that's all of these little green sections right here. And so this is what the DSP is looking for in order to confirm that we're certified on their platform. And it's also how we pass the information around impressions and clicks back to the DSP. So at that point, you're actually able to see trend performance both in your buying platform as well as in Airtory. Although that Airtory does capture more advanced reporting information as well. And so that's along the lines of interaction percentage. So how many people started to scratch off the ad unit, and a heat map on where the users are clicking, and a few other items as well.
And obviously the beauty of the things like the QR code and the previews and stuff like that is it gives you the ability to, if you're working with a client, you need to kind of get sign off on the actual ad unit. You can kind of get that done by sending them either the QR code so they can scan that, and then that will give them a kind of an interactive version of it, or you can send it across to them, and they can kind of and they can kind of give you revisions that you may need.
Yep. Exactly. And so I actually just opened up the preview URL right here, so you can send that very easily. And then I'm going to pop over to these slides once in a while just to talk a little bit about some of the things we have in our roadmap. And so one of those is a creative feedback flow. And so this will be the new version of our preview link where you can actually add feedback or invite other people, whether internally or externally, to the preview page. And then you can add feedback in real time and collaborate so that you get to full sign off with the customer with a very easy way to do it without having to exchange WhatsApps and text messages and emails and whatever else, Instagram DMs. So
because I think I know from my kind of experience of talking to people in the group that a lot of people work with agencies, right? And again, one of the challenges as an agency owner myself is you want to try as best you can to remove as much friction from kind of the onboarding process, right? So for me, it's anything that you can kind of provide that will make that process more seamless, right, and quicker, right, saves you time, which obviously ultimately saves you money as an agency owner. Yep,
absolutely. One other point on the initial creation process is what we've actually built is a single creative with underneath it. So you can see that EMB is already right here. And so what you can actually do is once you have a top level creative, you can make additional placements as well. So let's say that your client wanted to have it run on maybe multiple publisher direct deals, or you wanted to run it across different inventory opportunities or things like that. What you can do is you can add an additional placement, and so then at that point you have separate tags. Went into export, then this is a different tag than the first one that we built. So it gives you a granularity in terms of what's performing.
So you could potentially run some ads for maybe during the week, some at the weekend. You could have some different geographical locations, that type of thing. Because again, one of the things I love about like using Centro as a platform is it gives you the ability to kind of do that really sort of hyper local, granular kind of targeting that Facebook used to have, but they took it away, right? But that placement activity, or that hyper local targeting and all the sort of cool stuff that Facebook used to have, right, is still available on the third party platforms, right? So for me, again, I can create like super granular audiences elsewhere on Centro, and then bring my audiences into Facebook by virtue of the fact that data belongs to me and it's my first party data, right? So people are coming to my site, I'm cooking them, I can then bring them into kind of where we go. So I'm just going to interrupt you for 1 second, Julian. We have a question here from Mike Carney, who's a friend of mine. Good to see you, Mike. Glad that you actually found your way over to YouTube through the kind of the Ninja Warrior course that we seem to have put in place for you. So the question Mike has is, for the templates, do you just drop in graphic elements, or do you have to load a finished ad?
You just drop in graphic elements for each. So that's the goal of having templates. Some of them you type text into, right, if there's any text elements to it. But for us, when we build a new template, we QA it fully across all the different channels it would run in. By allowing it to be more of a templated approach, you know with certainty that the ad unit is good to go across any of the DSPs that we support. So for more advanced users who might have experience building in Google Web Designer, which is a free tool that Google has released to allow you to create custom rich media ad units from scratch. So very much a similar value offering to Centro or to Celtra, except locked in on buying within the Google ecosystem. We've actually developed a way to ingest tags or ad units created in Google Web Designer into Airtory. Would allow you to run those across other open programmatic channels as well. But from the outset on the templates, it's just images and URLs and text, and that's it.
And the other thing I like about like uploading images into Airtory is, even if the image is like not the right size, you can upload it and then kind of like crop it to kind of fit the size that your ultimate kind of thing needs to be. But again, this is where having the ability to know what the kind of the dimensions are in advance. If you're working with a kind of a designer in the Philippines or somewhere like that, you can just say, hey, these are the kind of the specifications. I need one of these, two of these, right? And again, things like your call to action buttons, your logos and everything else, they're separate layers, right? So again, you've got to think of it almost like you're layering your creative together, right, to make it sort of a better experience. Again, rather than you having to kind of create 500 different versions of an ad, right? You can create one version of an ad, and then you've got your call to action buttons and your your logos that can kind of sit on top of the actual image assets that you have.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and look at a few other of our template options just to give you an idea of kind of the length of our offering. So if we go back to desktop, we've got some of the kind of 360 cube revolving units. So those can have in-band or video. This isn't a great looking demo example, so we need to update it, but you can have video on top, header, and then multiple product images with product information below it. We have some of the other kind of more standard animated or interaction style options here too. One that I always like is our hotspot unit, which I think is pretty unique within programmatic, where you
I love this ad unit. This is so good.
Thank you. We need to fix the z-index here, but basically you can have multiple bezels on top of points of interest or products, and when the user hovers over it, they can learn more and they can actually click out to a specific URL.
So
a big part of
this is amazing for e-commerce merchants that are maybe selling like clothing or something like that. So if you have a kind of a model wearing a hat, a t-shirt, and a pair of trousers, right, the hotspot can kind of be on all of the things that they're wearing in the actual in the photo.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a big part of the value in rich media is that in some ways you're paying for a single ad impression as far as your DSP is concerned. But in reality, you're getting 3 or 4 conceptual impressions because you're conveying a lot more out-click opportunities and a lot more information in one, right? So we have plenty of carousel units too. And so on a carousel, you can have 5 different fishing poles or 5 different pieces of clothing or whatever you want. And each of those will have a unique out-click, right? So you're kind of getting more bang for your buck when you're bid.
Yeah. So Mike's got another question. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. So he's asking, what verticals are you seeing the greatest e-commerce and lead generation conversion stats for?
Sure. So I would say right now we're still breaking into the e-commerce space. We're doing a lot more with agencies, and I mentioned one doing a lot with 7-Eleven for kind of quick retail. Things like that. We are on lead gen. I have an interesting example to share. I would say right now the pure focus, or at least where we've gotten the most traction, is going to be more with the branding and agency side of things. They like it because it provide a significant improvement on CTR. But in terms of the feedback they're giving us based off the campaigns they're running, there's not quite as much of a maniacal focus on eCPA as it would be with lead gen oriented campaigns or with e-commerce. And so that's not to say that there's not a great use case for a number of our templates for those types of opportunities. Just in terms of conversations we've been having with customers that are using the platform, that hasn't been the type of vertical that they've been working with to date.
Okay, cool. I hope that answered your question, Mike.
So I'll go through some of our native stuff pretty quickly. So on native, you've seen these across. So we have desktop skins as some templates. So high impact, higher CM stuff. But if you have brands that want something where there's like a major site takeover and you have the budget to go do a direct buy on a publisher site, then these would be good opportunities there. And then we have, if you're familiar with Yield Mode, they're a player in kind of the mobile high impact space. So these are all going to be native units that you would have to buy direct with a publisher, but everyone's seen these inner scroller concepts, right? So that's possible. And then the lead gen one that I wanted to show y'all is, let's see if I can find it. And so this is one that we built out for Retail Me Not, which is a coupon brand here in the US based in. And so what they actually used it for is they launched a new brand called Retail Me Not RX Saver. And what was cool about this campaign is that this is V2 of it, but initially they were doing an A/B test. And so their goal was to drive users to a landing page and get them to search for drugs, like drug coupons or offers that Retail Me Not had in their location. So initially they were entering in as well, but eventually we built it out to where we resolved the location. And so the goal was searching page or like search results page for the drugs. And so they did an A/B test where you either had a static ad unit that was driving to the search page and then the user was searching on that page, or the user would type the drug name into the ad unit and then we would automatically search for them and so drop them off on the drug search results page. And so what they found was that they were actually twice as effective using the rich media ad units versus the other one. And so that's another concept beyond kind of getting more impressions for the price of one, is if you can truncate the user journey and take some of the other interactions, which would be a frictional step on the landing page trying to drive them to, and bring that to the ad experience, then invariably you're going to see more efficiencies in that funnel. So that's a pretty cool use case.
Very cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you can just kind of maybe walk through some of the video options, because I know that a lot of people are running kind of and getting good success with video ads at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the video side, it's largely video with interactive in cards. So a video with interactive carousel at the end. So on this one, you'd be able to swipe and see other cards and click through, and each of these have their own unique URL. Or a video with a poll at the end. For top of funnel inventory, we have this picture-in-picture unit, which is pretty neat. And so you have the content playing, and then the content shrinks. You have the ad play with audio on the right, and with a branded background. And then when it's done, it would shrink back, or the ad would shrink, and it would go back to the content. Other,
like on YouTube, you have the skip ads, and that's kind of a way of getting around the skip ad because the ad is in the ad unit, right? So.
Yeah, the ad is playing in the content. The one point to touch on here is that while we are a Google certified ad server and you can run our ad tags across Google Display Network, AdX, and DV360 and Google Ad Manager, YouTube is a separate certification that they only allow a very, very few amount of third-party ad servers into. So you are not currently able to run videos on YouTube with Airtory.
Okay, cool.
And so the last video unit to touch on is our start card unit. And with this, you have a branded banner on top, thumbnails on the bottom. Depending upon what thumbnail the user clicks on, a different video plays. And depending upon what video plays, you can have a different in-card experience. So this is right in line with that mission of more impressions for less. So you can give the user the option of what they want to watch. And, often they'll choose something instead of just waiting for the like autoplay video to go away. So that's what we have currently on the ad side. In terms of analytics, you get all the standard metrics. So you get impressions, clicks, CTR. We have invalid impressions, which is not place mode or double verify, but it's our own heuristic on if we see a traffic type that we think may be questionable, we flag that so that you can investigate further on your own. And then engagement rate, this is our demo account, so there's not engagement rate on it, but this is, each ad unit has unique event trackers on it, so you would see what percentage of users started to scratch off, finished scratching off, how many of them clicked to view more products on the carousel, which product did they click on. So all of that's available here, as well as different slices and dices of platform. So where it was running, impressions, fun things like that.
And obviously, if you're an agency person, you can download I noticed you can download some of those like stats as like PNGs, or you can download Excel files and kind of push the information into reports that you may have. Because again, I think one of the biggest challenges is always, whenever you traffic ads on a certain place, you just kind of take their word for it that they served up as many impressions as they said they've served up. And if there's a massive anomaly, then you need to have your own kind of data to be able to kind of query it.
Yep, absolutely. So the last piece to touch on is a little bit more road information. And so we haven't really spoken about dynamic creative optimization yet, and that's because we're in the process of revamping that offering. And so to explain dynamic creative optimization, essentially it lets you build out a logic tree where, based off of a single or a number of different rule sets that you bake into kind of the dynamic tag, different creative can serve to different people based off of parameters. So with our engine, which should come out in about 2 months, you can select from a number of different rules. This is also where you would set up A/B. And so say we chose weather. And so at this point, if you wanted to, you could create an individual creative for each of these different weather out. And I'll explain how you can do this at scale in a second. Or if you wanted to, you could go crazy and add a ton of rules in there. So now, if it's snowing a certain day and time and the user's on iOS in Bangalore, India, you can serve a specific creative only to people who fit that audience. You can, of course, set up a fallback image concept or fallback ad concept that would run if someone doesn't fit the exact parameters or different rule sets there. But let's say you've got a lot of nodes on that dynamic tree and you don't want to go crazy. So what you can do is set up a dynamic feed session option. And so here, and we plan on revamping the design here a little bit, but you would essentially have a Google Sheet or Excel WYSIWYG experience where you can put in the column names based off of the different content you're going to put into the template, and you download it and then you populate it. So you might have one that has the call to action at the top of the ad, and one be button text, and the other might be button color hex, and the third one and fourth one might be some of the images that you're going to pull in. And so once you have all of that populated into the Excel spreadsheet, you re-upload it, and then you're able to connect that into the dynamic tree that you built, and you come away with a tag that has a lot more flexibility and personalization in place. So any questions about?
I think this, in some respects, this is probably like the holy grail for a lot of e-commerce vendors to kind of get to the point where, again, like if you're selling summer and winter clothes, it's like, well, how do I know which part of the country people are in? So like obviously California and people on the West Coast, it's pretty much always warm, whereas like the East Coast, it's always raining and hurricanes, right? So trying to get the kind of the balance, if you're just targeting the United States and having one ad that fits everyone, you're never going to get that working. Whereas if you're able to target by location and have a different kind of a different experience for people, because again, I mean, I think ultimately that's what your platform's all about. It's helping to create a different experience for people depending on what device they're on, what location they're in, that sort of thing. So,
yep. Absolutely true. So that covers everything on the ad creation and serving side. So I can pause there for a moment if there are any questions, and if not, I can go ahead and move to the landing page builder.
There are no more questions, but so if you got sort of more that you can kind of walk us through, that would be great.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move over to landing page builder. And so we are unique in that there aren't other players, at least that we're aware of, in the ad creation and serving space that also offer a landing page builder component as part of the full platform. And so with this, we've had a number of publishers, a number of agencies utilizing this to be able to augment their media buy campaigns. Because it could be the case that, the landing page or maybe the non-existent landing page, so just the home page or something, is not really optimized based off of what the KPIs are for the campaign. One example of this is Retail Me Not actually, so they use us to create the ads that they sell direct to advertisers. And so for Black Friday one year, they sold a major campaign to Amazon. And so in terms of the products that were included in that campaign, there was not an individual vendor. Some of it was Amazon white label. Some of it was other offerings that Amazon thought would be compelling and drive traffic to the site. And so as part of the deal, Retail Me Not upsold them on having a landing page that they would be able to drive through. So the purchases, just to make sure this is clear, right now, we don't have e-commerce app ecosystem plugins. So a purchase can happen on the landing page, but it acts more as an air traffic controller or a place that you can drive traffic from an email campaign to, or social campaign, or influencer marketing.
More like an interstitial type page almost. Again, I mean, I work for a travel company, and when I first started working there, I kind of said to the developers, hey, I want to get some dedicated landing pages created for some of the ads that we're running, right? And they went, well, we kind of work on a sort of sprint process. Each sprint is normally sort of 6 to 8 weeks. And at the moment, we're working on the next sprint that you can kind of get on, which was 3 sprints time, right? So I'm like, so basically you're telling me it's going to take probably 6 months before I can get even considered for a landing page build out, right? And again, there's no guarantee that whatever we build is going to be fit for purpose. So to me, it just seemed insane to have to kind of wait that long. So if I'd have had something like this to be able to kind of, again, test hypothesis very quickly before you kind of invest heavily in trying to, to kind of get deep in the weeds on it, I think for me, it's like it's invaluable.
Yep. And so one example, by the way, of a company using this, so Maven is a big publisher group, actually bought Say Media. They own The Street, they own Sports Illustrated. And so this is an example of where they're driving some of their traffic, both from paid media as well as like O&O ads on their site. So this was built using the Airtory landing page builder. So looks nice, looks like a real website. You'll note that
cool.
on landing pages, you are able to set up custom subdomains and domains. And so with this, it can look like it's whatever brand you're working with, and they just need to do a little configuration on the DNS on the back end, and we are always there to help out.
Okay.
So
very cool.
Let's go to the landing page. So we have a few pre-stacked layouts, but right now we'll just build one from scratch. These layouts were put together before we made probably an additional 10 or 12 components. So they're not the greatest. I would recommend for now starting from some build exactly what you need. So if we're doing, go ahead and do range name, campaign name. You can update title, which is this up here, description, which is what happens when you hover over it. This is where if you had the URL configuration set up, you could select a different URL. You can update custom URL path, update your favicon, and select a different font family, and you can put in analytics and remarketing tags. So you can put in Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, retargeting pixels, whatever you want, all right here. And then we get down to the components. So we'll go ahead and build a landing page. So we'll put in a nav bar, a hero image, a product carousel, a YouTube video, a lead capture form, and a footer. So we've got our core landing page structure built out and toggle to mobile mode. So it's all desktop mobile responsive out of the box. You're able to drag and drop your components to anywhere you'd like. So if you want the lead capture form below the hero, you can update that. And then you would go into the individual components and update text, URL, format, whatever you want. So for now, I'll just go ahead and update the required fields so we can get to the end and you can see the final product. So we've got that one updated. Let's see. We'll get these updated. And let's see, are we missing any in here? Carousel. I think we might be good to go. So we'll go ahead and publish. And so we have now built our landing page, just like that. And so right now, any of the lead gen information that happens in here is captured in Airtory, and you can download it in a CS. We are able to do customizations depending upon the complexity. We charge a little bit for it, but we can set it up to where it goes to one of your specific customers' email service providers directly. If someone submits an email and they can be entered into an email funnel, it can go into their CRM, Dataway, into like a specific FTP endpoint that they want as well. So a lot of flexibility there. And then the other fun aspect of the platform, and I haven't mentioned this, but we do have a white label offering. And so part of the white label offering is that you're able to, on the preview URL, have your own subdomain and domain and branding on it. And then the other piece is that you can have unlimited landing pages with your own subdomain or domain for your own internal brand marketing and sales efforts. And so where that comes into play especially is we have this other component called the creative component. And what I really like about this one is that you can actually pull in ad units that you've created inside of the Airtory platform. and you can present those on the landing page itself, which is cool because you can start to put together your own verticalized offerings of ads that you've done in the past. You can use it as part of case studies. You can use it as part of a pitch. So if we ignore all stuff up here, you could just have, some pitch information top in your hero image. You can have, a carousel with past work or, customer references. And then they can actually come here and see the ads in real time that you built out for them to play around with. And that pretty much covers it. I guess the last piece is analytics. So if we go over here, then so actually every time we have a new hire join, we have them on the first day use landing page builder. And so this was the about me that one of our full stack guys built in like 2 hours or so. And that was mostly on the design work because he's not a designer. Or not. And then if we look at the stats, you're able to see impressions for the dates you have set up, lifetime impression time and average time. You can see different slices and dices of breakdowns, and then you can also see clicks based off of what they were interacting with on the separate components. If you have UTM parameters passing through from your campaigns, you can see that. And then we also have a heat map of where users were clicking on it. And that is the Airtory song and dance.
Well, thank you so much for kind of walking us through that. I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of do that. And again, I apologize for the fact that we seem to not be able to kind of bring our Facebook group, which clearly was our kind of original target audience, into this. But yeah, like I said, what Facebook have done with banning me from groups, I have no idea what I've done, but that's kind of by the by. But we don't seem to have any more questions over on YouTube, because I'm guessing everyone that's anyone would probably be over on Facebook, and they're probably lambasting us for like, you guys said you were going to go live and there's nothing there. What's going on? So what I was going to suggest, I was going to say, like, we are recording this, so what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to kind of upload it to Facebook kind of after the event, so for people that kind of that want to watch can do. I mean, again, for me, one of the most important things with buying media, right? It's all about. I mean, ultimately, however you buy your media, right? I mean, again, Facebook charge you for impressions, Google charge you for clicks. But ultimately, they're still really charging you for impressions. Even though they kind of charge you for the clicks, they still have kind of impressions as one of the metrics that you have, right? And when I see a lot of people in groups talking about CPMs, they talk about my CPMs are ridiculously high, right? For me, one of the benefits of using programmatic display is it gives you the ability to kind of dictate what you think the CPMs ought to be. I mean, I used to work for an ad sales house, and we had like rate card inventory that would be sold for, $30, $40 CPM, right? And the very same inventory that was unsold would then be sold as remnant inventory for like $1.50, right? On the exchanges. And you think to yourself, well, it's worth whatever somebody's prepared to pay for it. Some of the bigger agencies, their commercial deal with their clients is based upon the amount of money that they spend. So if they spend $200,000, they might get a 15% kickback as the agency. That means they're going to get $30,000, right? It's not in their interest to pay $1.50 for that inventory, right? It's worth paying $30, right? Yeah. So for me, it's almost like again, I'm very much in the kind of direct to consumer, performance-based agency world, right? So for me, it's important that I don't pay over the odds for any of the inventory that I have access to, right? Which is where, again, ultimately what I'm trying to get from any programmatic display, right, that I buy on Centro is I'm trying to get people to click through to my site. Once they click through to the site, I'm then able to kind of cookie them and continue the journey from there, right? So rather than kind of having to get a cold audience on Facebook and pay $25 CPMs, $30 CPMs, I can bring in my own audience and say, hey, I always liken it to taking your own drinks to a restaurant, right? You're turning up with something that would probably cost you $12, right? in a restaurant for like a bottle of beer, and you might be able to buy it for sort of $1.50 somewhere else, right? And you kind of, it's the same thing, right? But you're just leveraging the opportunity that you have. So for me, I know that obviously the inventory that we buy through Airtory, it comes at a cost, right? And obviously some people go, well, that's over and above what I'm paying for the inventory if I buy it on at Nexus or the Trade Desk or Centro, right? But again, from my perspective, it's like, to me, that's really, ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to improve the performance of the click-through, right? By providing that interactive and kind of rich media experience to enable you to kind of get a much, much higher click-through rate. So typically, what would you say, Julian, the kind of typical kind of improvement on click-through rates from sort of normal sort of IAB sort of standard boring banners were versus the stuff that you guys have on Airtory? What would you sort of say?
Yeah, so I would say that compared to a static display ad unit, we've seen, I would say we're always very surprised that there's not an improvement of at least 15 to 20%. And we've had it as much as a doubling of CTR, and it just kind of depends on, so much of it can depend on the targeting and the audience as well. But yeah, basically the way that we price it is that at the end of the day, our increased CPM that we're charging, the eCPA or eCPC ends up being a net positive ROI on the spend.
Okay, cool. And obviously, I know that we kind of talked about trying to do something for the group in advance. So can you maybe tell me a little bit about what we can do for the kind of the group members? Even though you're frozen, I think we still got your sound, but maybe your face is just frozen.
I'm frozen. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
So our standard pricing. So the platform is free to use, and we charge on impressions. So we generally charge 80-cent CPM. For all impressions, and so that's another way we're different than competitors. So other players will charge you more for a high impact unit or way more for a video unit, and for us, we want to make it nice and easy for people. So one price across the board for all units. And so for members of Elite Media Buy, for a 6-month period from when they begin, we'll provide a 50% discount on the CPM, so down to 40 cents CPM. So for us, it's obviously marginally a large hit, but we want to give people the opportunity to try the platform out at very little risk and see if value for it or value in it for them. And then on the landing page builder, we have either unlimited subscriptions, which would be an annual contract, but none of the things we're talking about here will have annual. People can just kind of cherry pick it. And generally for unlimited, it's $2,000 in a month. But we'll bring that down to $1,000 also, so another 50% discount there. And then the last piece is that people are able to buy landing pages on a one-off basis. Traditionally, that's $500 for a landing page, and so that'll also be taken down to $250 for an individual landing page.
Very good. So that's again, I look at those as being, again, I know what we pay now for the inventory we're buying on Centro. Right, and again, even at 80 cents, the kind of the kind of the numbers back out incredibly well. So for me, like to be able to get it for 40 cents for for 6 months, one, I think it gives you the opportunity to kind of test it. Same with the landing pages. Again, like if you've tried sort of your unbounces and all that sort of stuff, I mean, yeah, fine, you can kind of build those pages there. But you saw how quickly Julian was able to kind of build a page that would be, fit, again, really kind of good, fit for purpose. If you're an agency, and you want to kind of provide this sort of service to clients, again, this to me seems a bit of a no-brainer to be able to kind of create high quality landing pages very quickly. And if you're a kind of direct to consumer business, struggling to kind of build pages in Shopify or WooCommerce or something like that, this is a great sort of halfway house between having a full blown kind of build out on Shopify versus kind of being able to kind of throw something up quickly on your own. I mean, I say quickly, I mean, again, you saw how quickly Julian did it, right? He's obviously got the experience of doing it. I played around with it, and it was so easy to kind of do. It's literally kind of drag and drop. It's so simplistic to kind of be able to do that. So if people wanted to kind of get hold of you, Julian, what's the kind of the best way for them to do that?
So best way would be my email address. And so that's julian@airtory.com. And, if people reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm like, I'm literally down to. So either of those two are just fine.
Very, very good. So, what? I apologize for the fact that we haven't brought a kind of a big Facebook audience to the table. But again, my plan would be we'll kind of upload the kind of the recording to the group kind of after the event. I'm sure that there will be people that will watch the replay that will have questions, and if they do, obviously reach out to you. Julian, I wanted to kind of obviously thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come and talk to the group, and and obviously if there are any questions in the group, you're a member of the group, and I guess you'll kind of dive in and answer some of the questions as they kind of come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jim, thanks a lot for the time. I really appreciate you inviting me on. It was a pleasure.
Good. And so like I said, we'll follow up with people in the group, and I'll make the recording available as and when I'm kind of permitted to kind of go back into groups. It's one of the reasons why I hate the fact that Facebook has groups. I mean, I created eliteMediaBuyers.com. It has a forum on it for that very reason, because I thought, I don't want to ever get to the point where, I get locked out, kicked out, whatever, right? And it's happened to me, and I'm like I said,
today's the day.
Today's the day. Actually, yesterday. I mean, for me, I was in two minds. I'm like, should we postpone it? Should I cancel it? Right? And I went, you know what? Let's just kind of do it. Let's go for it. Let's record it. And then, again, I think the content for me was amazing. I know I was really enthused to kind of know more about it when I got the introduction from Harrison in the first place, and now that obviously I've got to know you a little bit better. Clearly, you're very kind of responsive and helpful, and so anyone in the group that wants to take advantage of those promos, that they're obviously going to be there, and you can reach out to Julian directly. He'll sort you out. So thanks a lot, everyone, for kind of watching, and we will talk to you on the next video or in the group, and thanks for your time. Cheers. Bye for now.